Hello, my name is Anjani Segrist, and today I'm going to be reading the natal chart for Donald Trump. So we start off by looking at the lineage, and here in the center would be sort of like him being born. And this is a map of the sky the moment he was born. So if you just imagine putting this up over your head, this would be a real map of exactly where everything was. So here on the outside is a map of the day, which I have this one for the 11th of November. And so we can find out from the outside what kind of phases or cycles he might be in. And the main things I want to cover today are specifically for us to kind of get an understanding of the person. So the lineage, we start off by looking at the lineage. This tells us what the person was already a master of just by being born. We call this the Leo job in the Sagittarius tribe. So he has the moon with the south node, so that's a conjunction in Sagittarius. For the node, we look at the house position, which is where we get the Leo job. So the Sagittarius tribe, this would be a kid, when he first started getting a personality as a little baby, would have been very interested in learning many things and wanting to, it's a questing energy. So wanting to be on a quest and understanding as much as possible. And with the specialty of Leo, it's also wanting to be on the center stage. So going out, understanding things and many different things, and then being able to be like royalty on the stage, sort of either talking about all these things that he knows or, somehow creating drama. Because that's, and not to say drama is bad. I mean, there is drama in our life. Like we are living like a play, So the Leo job would be the one who is sort of demonstrating all the things that they have gathered and learned about with that Sagittarius moon. So from the lineage, we look at what he's learning about. So we find that out by looking at the north node and the rising sign. So the north node is over here, and it's always going to be directly across from the south node. The north node is in the 11th house, and his rising sign is in Leo. So we would call this the Aquarius job in the Leo tribe. So both of these energies of the lineage and the new school are very similar. They're different and the intention is different, but it's a very similar energy of collecting data and information and acting it out, or standing up on the stage, dramatizing the data and the information. So the new school, Leo tribe. Leo is completely about self-love, radiance, being magnetic and having a big personality, dynamic charisma. So they want to be on stage. And the thing is, whatever it is we're learning about is usually a place that we will make mistakes because we're not fully grown into our big pants of what we're learning about in this lifetime. It's an ongoing thing that we're going to take forever to learn about. It's like we have our full lifetime to totally understand what it is we're learning about. So that's the Leo tribe. And some of the mistakes with any of us with Leo rising is narcissism as a number one. It's because it is all about me. When you're learning Leo, it's all about me. And the obvious pitfall of that is that it's going to be all about the person, and it can sometimes be at the expense of everybody else around. When Leo is in its healthy state, it is so big and bright and beautiful that everybody around it is also encouraged to bring themselves up to the stage and be bright and beautiful also, be bright and shiny, full of self-love, full of radiance. When Leo is in its unhealthy version, it's basically wants to be on the stage at the expense of everybody else. It doesn't care. Leo is not a sign that cares about others. It's a self. It's about the self. So with the Aquarius job in that tribe, it's all about big picture perspective. So, you know, it doesn't have a magnifying glass on one thing. It's looking at the big picture. Some of the things about that is like it can be detached, cool, cold even to individuals because it's for the greater good. Aquarius cares about the greater good and looking at the whole thing, not under a magnifying glass, but from far back. So the next thing we'll look at here is the inner feminine and the inner masculine. So for the masculine, for a man, it's Mars, and Mars shows us the form of the god that he is representing. So he has Mars right next to his rising sign. So this is a lot of Leo in this chart. And you can see Pluto's here too in the first house. So the first house is a meditation on who am I? This is where we are learning about who am I. Over here is where we are learning about who are you. So this is a relationship axis and it's Leo Aquarius. It's all about empowering each other and wanting to be big and bright and beautiful and have everybody around be big and bright and beautiful also. So Mars in Leo is that same energy, same thing. So let's now look at the feminine, the inner feminine. We all have an inner masculine and an inner feminine. And Venus for Donald Trump is in the sign of Cancer. It's right there next to Saturn. So all of these conjunctions say something. You know, here's a big 3 things together. Here's a bunch of stuff together. They all say specific things, and I'll try to touch on those here. So the inner feminine is what he most wishes to connect with in the outside feminine and the feminine within. So for a man, Venus shows us what he most wishes to connect with. And what often happens is that that inner feminine gets projected onto women, and he expects women to show up in this particular way. And that happens to all of us. It's nothing specific to him. It's like a normal thing. So here he's got Venus in the sign of Cancer, which would be the good mother energy, loving, nurturing. Something that I think of automatically is that when I see a man with Venus in Cancer, I automatically think of that the goddess body shape that's like voluptuous, that the person would be attracted to that because it's all about that the mother with the big hips and the curves, and that's the inner feminine. So we take the Venus and whatever's descending, so over here, and we do alchemy to mix them together to get a really good idea of the form of the feminine that he is representing and most attracted to. And that's Cancer and Aquarius. So this, I call this the cosmic mother because she is has a big cosmic perspective, also able to be detached, see the big picture, and also going to be loving and nurturing. So that's interesting. So let's look at this next part. Since Venus is conjunct to Saturn, Saturn is the part of us that is setting structure and form. We can say that at times, what I'm going to say is by looking at this, that he may have felt in times that the feminine was either needed to be, because Saturn can be a restrictive type of feeling also. Anytime there's something conjunct, it could say that they were building from the feminine, or that they were constricting because their own inner feminine felt constricted. You understand? It can play out, and it probably does, in both ways, because everything is a polarity. Everything is a spectrum. It's always going to be, it's never going to be just one thing, you know, that there's a continuum that happens. So that's something that struck me as like, oh, okay, I think I get it. You know, I think I can kind of understand a little bit more when I see that. There is there is a thing about women, because the inner feminine being conjunct to Saturn is considered, conjunctions are considered something difficult. It's something that we have to do alchemy, because it causes a little bit of frustration or irritation. The red lines here are square angles. Those are also considered hard. They too cause friction. So Venus, who's conjunct to Saturn, is, we can talk about it from the form of being constricting, or a constricted form of feminine, is square to Chiron and Jupiter. So Chiron is known as the wounded healer. This is the part of us that I've done a lot of work with Chiron, and I'm holding it as a magical alchemist, where there's something that's painful and we have to, you know, find a way to let that out, because, you know, we put band-aids on painful things and keep it in. And the idea is that we have to open that and be vulnerable to whatever it is that has been like a thorn in our heel type of thing. And in the mythology, Chiron actually was wounded in his left heel, and it's a wound that doesn't heal, and we all have it. So his is directly related to the feminine and to the Saturn principle, which in old astrology, the Saturn principle is known as the father, government, something that is restrictive. So it's just a really interesting configuration there. Jupiter basically expands everything it touches, and Jupiter and Chiron are bunched together. Chiron is also bunched together with Juno. Juno represents the part of us that has values. What do we value? What do we want to commit to? How are we going to merge and use our money? You know, we look at Juno like a marriage indicator. So we talk about Juno in that way. So with all these things together in a tight, Neptune is there, but it's not, I wouldn't call that part of the conjunction. It is within a 10-degree orb of these guys, but let's just look at these together. So Chiron, the place that is wounded, Juno, which has to do with values and commitments, and Jupiter, whose whole point is to, you know, we throw Jupiter in just to like blow it up and make it humongous, make it so big. So you can take that how you take it. The way I see it is that there is really wounding around, you know, and it's all in the sign of Libra. So all about relationships, then taking that up and looking at this, you know, I see a place to find a little compassion, to feel a little bit of empathy with the whole big picture and the whole story of what this person is working with. The next thing I'll mention here, which I see this as being really lovely, there's the Sun, the South Node, and Uranus, and they're all really, really close. So Sun is 22 degrees Gemini. The South Node is 20 degrees, and then Uranus is at 17. So those are really tight together. The Sun showing us the way you do one thing will be the way you do everything. The North Node showing us what is the meditation for this life. Like, what is the primary meditation? Means I'm really investigating this thing, because the North Node shows us, there's a book that it talks about it being the destiny point. What is your destiny in this lifetime? A life purpose, in a way. So if you don't know your North Node, find out what it is and just investigate that area and make the connections for yourself. It's beautiful and a magical thing to do for yourself. So with these, to me, the Sun in Gemini, this is a trickster type of energy, very childlike, very boyish, like Peter Pan. And the North Node being the role or the job or the, thing that you're mostly learning about, like, let's call it a life purpose for this moment. It is being in the spotlight. It is being the way he looks to me, it is really. So we also refer to Gemini sometimes as the Fool in the tarot deck, where it's just like throw everything up in the air and see where it lands, and just having this heart of gold, like a child, and really being good at manifesting things. Let's say that. And Uranus, right next to this grouping, is basically saying that there's a radical change agent that's built in with this person. The sun being, what's the biggest, brightest thing about us that stands out the most. And Uranus being the part of us that is radical, revolutionary, really a change agent. If you throw Uranus into the mix, it's basically like it changes the assemblage point. So all of those wonderful, beautiful things are in opposition to the moon. So whenever there's an opposition, it tells us about something that is, again, challenging and causes a sort of a friction, something that you have to do something about, because otherwise you won't be successful in life. If you don't do alchemy between your hard things in life, it's just not going to result in success. What results in success is looking at what you have in each hand. So for this, the moon in Sagittarius, and whatever relates to his lineage, his family life, his mother, because the moon we can look at that positioning in the 5th house and in the sign of Sagittarius, and also there's a strong relation to the mother and the lineage altogether. So we got that over here, and who knows how he's holding that in this hand. And then in the opposite side, we have that with the sun, the North Node, and Uranus. So, finding a way to bring alchemy to this element could be an explosively beautiful thing. So he was actually born on a full moon. Full moon people are usually big and gonna be noticed. You can't hide when you're a full moon person. So this is just it's really beautiful. And no, I was not a Trump supporter. I'm still not really into the whole thing. I'm optimistic though, and I'm by reading this chart, I'm hoping to sort of get some understanding about the person and see something else, change my own perspective on what we are talking about in the media as people who are not Trump supporters. So the last thing I'm going to mention here is Mercury, which is the part of us that so Mercury on our chart represents our cognition, our perception, the way we communicate. And he has, in the 12th house, which is the most obscure house, I also have my Mercury in the 12th house. So to me, what that feels like is being able to go into the collective unconscious, find the things that are important to me and important to him, what he finds to be important in the collective unconscious, the depth material, the dark matter, things that are not talked about, and bringing them up and talking about them. So he's got that going on, and that's at a square angle to Neptune, which has to do with the dreams and visions of life, his own personal dreams and visions of life, and square angle to all of this stuff that we were talking about with Juno, Chiron, and Jupiter. So really communicating all of these things. Now these things, it's however he's holding them. And the way that you hold your unique material is unique to you, your upbringing, your circumstances. So this gives us a clue, but it's really going to be unique. We don't know. We don't know unless I ever got the chance to sit down and talk with him and ask him. I would love to do that, to interview Donald Trump based off of his astrology chart. I would absolutely love to do that. So I'm going to leave off with that. And this was a really short video because I don't read charts for people who I didn't get permission from and who are alive, especially. I do read charts when for people who aren't in their bodies anymore, and I get psychic permission, like I ask before. So I'm going to stop with this here, and please do leave any comments. I would love to have any feedback. Thank you so much, and I'm right here with you on what we're doing in our life, how we are creating the next step. So thank you so much.